Crisis Radio. Keep up with everything at Tarpley.net, Webster G. Tarpley Twitter feed. And this week, the big news is go to ProgressivePress.com, go to the Coming Soon tab, and pre-order your copy of The Real Pearl Harbor Conspiracies, written by yours truly. It's unprecedented analysis. It's not the official version. It's not the crackpot libertarian anti-Roosevelt view, but it's what actually happened. And key figures in it, the people who essentially gave you the invisible government of the post-war period: McCloy, Stimson, Lovett, Marshall, Bundy. That's the group that guaranteed the U.S. debacle at Pearl Harbor as part of their war against Franklin D. Roosevelt, which had included assassination attempts, 2 coup attempts, and finally an assassination attempt in 1945 that succeeded, as Marshal Stalin told Elliott Roosevelt in 1946. The Churchill Gang, meaning the international extension of Stimson, Lovett, McCloy, Marshall, and Bundy, the Churchill Gang killed Franklin D. Roosevelt, said Marshal Joseph Stalin. He's not some provincial quack, right? He's sitting on top of the KGB and the GRU and everything else. So this is, I think, it's a very important piece of evidence, confirmed from 2 sources, really. So the other thing, before we leave Russia, the question on the ABM. Given the really insane U.S. policies, they're attacking everybody simultaneously, and it gets you into fixes like this. You look at Pakistan, where the U.S. has insisted on killing 24 members of the Pakistani military forces some a week or 2 ago, and the anti-U.S. mobilization, agitation inside Pakistan is continuing. It means that right now the land route for delivering supplies to the NATO invaders of Afghanistan is blocked. You can't get through the Khyber Pass. You can't go overland through Pakistan. So it means the only way to get supplies into Afghanistan is what they call now the northern route, and it means largely the Russian railway system and the Russian airspace are critical. You can't do it without Russia, land, roads, railroads, and above all airspace. It just can't be done. So the question is, if the United States insists on pressing the destabilization of Russia, insists on interfering in these elections and making these idiotic pronouncements by Madame Clinton about the elections, right? Again, the good answer is put your own house in order before you start throwing stones there, Madame Clinton. If the U.S. insists on this kind of irresponsible crackpot behavior, then what's a Russian possibility? It's just to say, we're cutting off your access to our airspace and our land corridors, and you can see go find another way to supply your invaders in Afghanistan. That may not be the preferred option, but it's an option. And if you press too far, you will find that looking at you. At that point, if the Pakistani land routes are cut off and the Russian air and land routes are cut off, well, then we have the Ronald Neumann proposal, which is the U.S. should send air convoys across Pakistan with fighter escorts and fight their way through against fighter planes and I suppose against surface-to-air missiles and God knows what. Well, good luck with that. You're going to lose some planes. You're going to be at war is what you're going to be. And the other thing, of course, is you can't get enough volume using air alone. You've got to use land routes, and there's no way to fight your way through Pakistan. So I would say there are two things that need to be done here. First of all, the United States should butt out of the internal affairs of the Russian Federation, just as the UN Charter suggests, as common sense, natural law also suggests. And let's end this lunatic adventure in Afghanistan. Let's stop this constant provocation of Pakistan and let the Pakistanis have their nuclear deterrent. This is, after all, a sovereign question for them. All right, so that's the the Russian dossier for this week. Watch those demonstrations on the Saturday. That will be a barometer to what the CIA capabilities actually are. And of course, these people, who's going to come out? Is it going to be Limonov, the national Bolshevik? In other words, you're going to have neo-Nazis out there. Probably, you probably have some Al-Qaeda too, but mainly you're going to have neo-Nazis. You're going to have Limonov and the national Bolsheviks, with maybe Limonov, not so much the spokesperson, but Kasparov, right, the chess champion, who's gotten himself checkmated with his alliance with Limonov and the national Bolsheviks. They're going to be out there anti-Putin and what have you. And I can't imagine the Russian middle class, since Putin has actually he's increased the gross domestic product of Russia by something like 700 to 800% during the past decade. I don't see who's going to turn away from that in favor of these idiotic promises of democracy and singing tomorrow's with Limonov, right? It's like in Libya, democracy means the rule of Belhaj, and in Moscow, democracy means Limonov and the national Bolsheviks, meaning neo-Nazis. Nazis will be in power. All right, let's change gear now. Let's look at the financial side. We have just had this all-night session in the night between Thursday, the 8th of December, and Friday, the 9th of December. We've had this all-night session of the European Union 27, shortly to become 28, when Croatia joins, at least signs today or tomorrow. And as a result of this, we have two blocks. Well, one block and then a couple of stray countries that are not in the block. Both sides have problems, of course, but the problems on the British side are much, much more severe. One way to look at this, from outside Britain, you'd have to say, well, de Gaulle was right. Perfide Albion, the treacherous British, the Trojan horse, never wanted to be part of Europe, joined it to sabotage it, never supported it, never in favor. And, of course, the platform that Cameron and Osborne, these Tory reactionaries, have chosen is total slavish devotion to the parasitical, speculative financial interests of the City of London. That's what they're standing for. And above all, let's get right to the central issue. What is the issue on which the British are saying we will not go along with France and Germany and the vast majority of these other countries, even though I have critiques of the second group too? It's the Euro-Tobin. It's the idea of a tax on speculation. Cameron did this big parade saying, we have financial services, we're the City of London. British national interests, according to Cameron, are the same. They are identical to the interests of the worst City of London speculator. And, of course, this has a track record. He's saying we refuse to be regulated. That's, I think, bad. They should be regulated. The London financial market is one of the least regulated. We'll talk about that for a second. When you American motorists see your gasoline price going up, 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 where do you think that speculation is occurring? The U.S. regulatory regime is bad, but the London one is practically non-existent, and we've talked about this in previous years. The ICE exchange in London is the locus where Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley drive up the price of gasoline at the pump using derivatives, using index futures, various kinds of index derivatives, and so forth. That takes place in London. So the freedom of the City of London, the deregulated, wild speculation of London, is what's giving you these energy prices. How about that? So that's what Cameron is willing to fight to protect. We'll be back in a minute on World Crisis Radio.